But here is a little bit of the difference when you're talking about your weaknesses. Because I know so often people don't want to sit here and tell you about all the things that they don't do well because of a fear that the interviewer is going to think something negative about them. And I just want to dispel this myth right here and right now. Hello, everybody. Michael Harding here with Chick-fil-A. I'm an owner-operator in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we're about to unpack our next episode of Memorable in Minutes. Thank you for tuning in for our latest edition where we're going to unpack Tell Me About Your Weaknesses. So if you watched our previous video, we unpacked Tell Me About Your Strengths. And with this individual episode, we're going to follow a very similar process. We unpack that you answer the question and then you give a story. You answer the question and then you give a story. It's going to be the exact same process. But here is a little bit of the difference when you're talking about your weaknesses. Because I know so often people don't want to sit here and tell you about all the things that they don't do well because of a fear that the interviewer is going to think something negative about them. And I just want to dispel this myth right here and right now that you are not going to be kicked out of an interview, or you're not going to get a job solely because of one interview question. But also, interviewers understand that you might not be amazing at every single thing. The person that you're talking to has things that they do not do well. So I want to just lift that weight off of your shoulders, because don't feel like you have to be perfect. But here's one thing that you can do that will help elevate your interview question as you go through them. So you've given them the bottom line up front. This is what I don't do well. You've given them a story about a situation that you went through, or you're kind of unpacking why, how this is something that you don't do well. But then here's the kicker. Before you get to step 3 of summarizing, while you're talking about the story, talk about things that you're doing right here and right now to elevate this weakness of you. Because really, that's the heart of the question. Do you know what you're not good at? And do you have a plan to overcome what this is? So let me give you a couple of examples. If someone were to ask me, Michael, what do you not do well? I would respond with, you know what? I'm not great at the financials of the business. When I think about some of the budgeting, I take more of the approach of we'll either grow sales to overcome the expenses that we're going through, or I love loving on people and developing leaders. And sometimes that can be expensive. So I tend to lean more on we're going to invest heavily into people, but sometimes that can have immediate harm on your P&L statement. So what I've done is I've hired a business coach that was specifically geared towards the financials of the business and really knew how to unpack things. And this business coach taught me how to budget every single line item on an annual basis, to track my budgeting things throughout the month so that I could keep growing. And what I've been able to do is truly understand the difference between investing and investing in the right things. So for instance, one thing that we had to cut out was we offered free college tuition to every single one of our team members. At its face, this sounds like an amazing benefit. But what I learned is that in the year that we signed up for it, only one person ended up taking classes. And I would have done better just to pay for this one individual than the amount of money that I spent to be able to offer it to the entire staff. So that's one thing that we had to eliminate, that I learned from this business coach, not just to invest, but to invest in the right things. And that is one thing I'm doing to improve this financial acumen weakness that I have. So like you saw, I unpacked what my weakness was. I gave you a story about some things that I've been struggling with and why I feel like I'm struggling with it. And then I showed you that I hired this business coach to help teach me and improve my business acumen and some changes that I did in order to overcome that. So that can be a full-fledged answer, and we would move on from there. And if someone comes in and asks you, hey, tell me 2 or 3 or 5 weaknesses that you have, you follow the same process that I taught in our previous video of, instead of summarizing, you just say answer, story, this is what I'm doing, and then you move on to the next one. Answer, story, this is what I'm doing to improve it. So if I had just gone through all of that and I said, so that's what I'm currently working on in order to improve my financial acumen. Another weakness that I have is I give people too many chances. So we had this leader that was with us, and it was never one of those situations where people are amazing or they're not amazing. It's when they ebb and flow between being amazing and not amazing, and doing great for 2 weeks and then they have an attitude, and doing great for 4 weeks and then they show up late 4 days in a row. I had a leader really challenge me and say I was giving too many chances to people. So what I've had to do as a result is I've surrounded myself with a whole bunch of truth tellers and empowered them to say, when you feel like I am giving somebody too many chances, I want you to challenge me on that. And that is my trigger to step back and say, okay, am I giving this person chances because I see so much potential and I see that they can accomplish them and I'm willing to go along this path with them? Or have we crossed the barrier of having too many chances? And honestly, it's been really well. We just moved on from somebody about 2 months ago. We had to terminate them because they weren't agreeing with our culture. And I had one of my leaders challenge me on this, and they were right. So that's one of the things that I've done. So with my weaknesses, we talked about financials and giving too many chances and some things that I'm doing to improve them. So those are 2 interview answers that I give for my weaknesses. And just like what I talked about in the strength side of things, I want to recommend, and I cannot say this enough, do not just give the answer. Don't just say, I suck at time management, or I'm not really good at accomplishing deadlines. Give people the heart behind the story, and then tell them what you're doing to overcome that and how you can make sure that this is not going to be a problem for the future role that you're trying to apply for. So always follow this process, give them those steps so that you can be concise with what's going on. And that is how you answer the weakness problem and how you make sure that you're not getting the interviewer distracted by something you didn't say. All right, well, that's what we want to talk about today. Thank you for watching our current episode of Memorable in Minutes, and we'll see you next week. Y'all have an amazing day.